Kalimera, and welcome to the News and Views with the award-winning EV Cafe, live from Agios Nikolaos, Crete, where we've had a severe weather warning for 33 degrees Celsius, and the UK, where I believe flippers or a scarf are the order of the day. What's the weather like with you people? Paul, what's it like with you?
Grey and dull and boring. It's been misty this morning, actually. We've had some good old fog.
Paul, grey, dull and misty. Sam, how are you doing?
The exact same.
Grey, dull and misty.
How is that possible? I've had pink lightning shooting across the sky. We sent the daughter off to school with an umbrella and a spare.
Oh dear, I'm feeling for you all.
Yeah.
Oh dear, that kind of preparedness. Goodness gracious, what a super mum you are. Anywho, welcome to 30 minutes of what's happening in sustainable transport with expert analysis from the aforementioned grey, wet, dull people. It's brought to you in partnership this week with the AA, always ahead. So grab a cuppa and plug into what's happening in clean transport this week. And coming up, there are calls for the Chancellor to introduce a pay-as-you-drive charge on EVs and a counter call for all vehicles to pay as they drive. We pull that story to bits in a minute. Europcar has cut its average company car fleet emissions to 29 grams per kilometre from 129 grams 3 years ago. More on that soon. Scottish Water has completed a solar and battery energy storage scheme. We'll drip feed that story to you in just a second. I know. Did you see what I did there? Thanks, Paul. Fleets need clarity on the 2030 van ban, and we go to Paul for his wisdom. All of it. That will take 10 seconds. And that's not fair. Paul, we're looking forward to you speaking vans. Yeah, I sound more and more like Sam every day. Dublin Express moves. Now, you've got to pay attention with this one. Dublin Express have moved to HVO. Now, some of us know that that's hydro-treated vegetable oil, but it got me thinking, and how would I describe myself if I used those letters, HVO? And I'd go with haggard, vague, and old. So how would you describe yourself in using those letters, HVO? Paul, go.
Oh, gosh. Hyper, verbose, obvious.
I love those. Sam?
Happy, vain, and overambitious.
At least he's honest. Honest without an H.
And Sarah, HVO, what does that mean for you?
I was also going to say happy. I was thinking vibrant, and I can't think of an O.
Obnoxious?
Sometimes.
Obstinate.
Sometimes. Let's keep going.
Outrageous.
Outrageous, I'll take it. Original.
Absolutely fabulous ones in the comments. We're going to come to those in a minute. HVO.
Brilliant.
What would your 3 HVO words be? V. Karen Moore.
Yeah,
V.
Karen's misheard. It's V, not
Avoyant.
B.
V for vague, as opposed to B for vague. Right. Okay, let's move on. No. Fleet and Mobility Live is what I want to talk to you about, and everything electric. Because with the EV Cafe Village is on tour in 24, and our next stops will be Fleet and Mobility Live at the NEC and Everything Electric in Farnborough. All week commencing the 7th of October. It's going to be a massive week for us. We just like to cram it all in, you know what we're like. What should we expect, Paul, at Fleet and Mobility Live? Why should people come?
Well, do you know what? I love this. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and the fact that Fleet Mobility Live, they're run by Bauer Media, so they're a great event for fleet people. And Fleet Mobility Live is a place where the top 200 fleet companies are invited. The aforementioned Scottish Water, people like that, utilities companies, some of the big sort of 5 or 10 companies like Royal Mail and the AA and all of the Europcar, all of the big companies are all going to be there. also, there's a big dedicated public sector area, and with the Levi Fund and all of that sort of stuff, it's a really important time for the fleet sector. And I think bringing those two sectors of the market together is a great opportunity. Always great for networking, but this is where fleet people come to learn. So they're coming, they're having lots of conferences, and then they're getting out and they're seeing what's been heard. Then they're going to try and put it into practice by looking around and talking. And we present the EV Cafe Village, the electric vehicle ecosystem, and it is a fantastic thing. So we combine and we collaborate and we amplify our voice by unifying together on the one message of the EV ecosystem. So it's a great place to be.
And if you want to get involved and you want to perhaps exhibit alongside us in the EV Cafe Village, how might you do that?
Well, you can, of course, get a hold of me. You can come and talk to me and I will give you the sort of pricing, what the stand looks like, what great light boxes are going to be used this year, which is fantastic. There's also Richie Martin. Richie Martin is available too. He will be reaching out to many people. So if Richie Martin's in your phone screen there, then answer it and you will be able to understand a bit more about the Fleet and Mobility Live event, which will be a really good event.
Top man. Good. Right. Shall we move on? Clears throat and go. The campaign for better transport has called for the Chancellor to introduce a pay-as-you-drive charge on zero-emission vehicles. The charity, which works across England and Wales to make transport better, greener and fairer, says that revenue from fuel duty will decline by an estimated £5 billion a year by 2033 as the UK transitions from petrol and diesel vehicles to zero-emission technologies. The easiest immediate solution to address this, says the organisation, will be a simple charge levied on zero-emission vehicles on a per-mile basis, whilst having an adequate transition period would enable the industry to prepare. Exempting existing zero-emission drivers would incentivise uptake before the implementation date, it adds. Oh, I've got some issues with this. And I'll come to the guys in just a second, but why have two separate systems? Pay per mile for EVs for a while. You can get away with it for a period because you've got an EV before the cut-off date. Then we've got road fuel duty. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever and is totally incoherent. Sarah, for me, it should be one system for all drivetrains, no matter what, and possibly differential pricing dependent upon the emissions that you put out. Thoughts?
I'm cursed by balance, but I can see that Sam is jumping at the bit, so let's let him go first. My point will be, when you come back to me, about where this came from, and I think I know. Go ahead.
Go on, Sam. Let it go.
Well, we'll find out where it came from in a second then. Yeah, you said, John, not we didn't. You didn't say, they did. The easiest immediate solution. I mean, it couldn't be further from the truth. It's the hardest, longest term, most difficult challenge to try and make pence per mile. It's complete and utter nonsense. What we need to do is replace fuel duty with something else, whereby we're all contributing with our vehicles to the cost of maintaining the roads. Not just say that fuel duty stops. It needs to be road duty or something different, and we all need to pay for that. And that just has to be a tapered thing whereby electric vehicles need to pay their way just like everything else. And you're absolutely right, John. There needs to be a consistent solution. Bear in mind, we've got millions and millions of legacy vehicles as well. We can't have a pence per mile and something else. And even then, you have to have all the vehicles with some sort of telemetry in order to manage that. And how is that policed? How is that controlled? Who installs it? It's an absolute waste of time. What we need is something that, similar to what we have, but just includes electric vehicles, and they need to pay their way just like everybody else.
And of course, it presupposes that the money raised by the road fuel duty or road tax, as we used to know it, is spent on maintaining our roads, which we know it clearly isn't. That money is taken and used for other areas of government. So, there are huge issues with this. And I'm frustrated that the charity isn't calling out the genuine challenge that there is here in investing in our infrastructure through the money that is raised from motorists. Sarah, have you had a chance to consider your response?
Oh, no, I already had it. It's just that Sam's theatrical face slapping I thought was going to be worthy of an answer, which it definitely was. It was just that this stuff, don't forget, a lot of our leaders are simply mouthpieces for their party, and their parties are pressured by lots of different angles. And one of those is discouraging driving altogether. In
Yes.
favour of sustainable transport, in favour of investment in sustainable transport, and that only comes when there is a need for additional sustainable transport. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg, but I do agree. I think this is a crazy way of going about it. I appreciate that my driving is impacting on the roads, but until I can see that that money goes directly to repairing those roads, then I'll be a little more interested. But it's such a lovely idea, but I just can't see it working. It's just too complicated.
And Paul, for you, I'm sure commercial vehicles, they'll be penalised heaviest of all.
Well, of course, I mean, the average mileage for a van is much higher than a car. And I appreciate that is covered in higher road fund licence rates at the moment. But, you know, we need to think about each sector individually and think how best to do this. You know, for me, you know, coming up with a new scheme when we're just kind of bodging our way through the current ones, I think it would be better just to get some base plans for what we've got today before we start working out and eulogising about what we'll do tomorrow. But I do get that we have to fill the void that will come from increased electric vehicle use, but I don't think it's the way to do it personally. But also, we've also got to set out the equity cost between public charging and private charging and get that level first, because then if you know, I don't know, more mileage, the people, and they're going to use public charging more, it's going to push the price, you know, so where does it end? It's too complex, to Sam's point.
It's quite staggering that a decade or so after we started to bring electric vehicles onto our roads and knew that this would be a challenge, that there isn't an oven-ready solution. And I hate to use that phrase because a stupid, blonde, goofy government person said it before. We needed a solution. We need these things to be thought through and to use the best in the world to help us create the best policy for the UK. There are benchmarks out there that we can use, but we just seem so stupid and bounce from one bad solution to another.
We just need solutions that are end to end, right? Because coming up with a price per mile logic, but not understanding the cost implications and the delicacies and complexities around how someone might implement that, who's going to manage it, where it sits, what platform, whose data is it, is an absolute minefield of complexity that someone hasn't thought of, apart from, I know, let's do pence per mile, that'll solve the problem, without going through the journey of the reasons why it isn't the right solution. So we just need an end-to-end appraisal of these ideas to make sure that they're viable.
All I know is if Sam Clark was put in charge of this, sorry, Sarah, I'll continue to say, if Sam Clark was put in charge of this, we'd have a darn good system and it would be monitored to the nth degree and would work. Sarah.
I just had an interesting thought, actually. For 20 years, I've barely paid any road tax whatsoever. My motorcycle was 15 quid, my petrol car after that was £30, and I pretty much went EV. My diesel was 10 quid or something nominal, and then I went EV anyway, so it's been zero for forever. So actually, I don't think I understand how the road fund is managed. I don't know where that comes from, so perhaps we're all worrying about something we don't fully understand. Help, please, audience. Give us the answer.
Yeah, we could do a deep dive on this, couldn't we?
Yeah,
Paul,
Matthew
down the potholes.
Matthew Ling makes an interesting comment, and not whether the Japanese road is a good solution or not. I think we can learn from other countries and other ways of doing things. And Rebecca Wilson asked, you know, should OEMs play a part? And I do think that they should play a part, actually, in coming up with solutions. And you know, data from vehicles can be easily accessed, and it could be something that might help in the longer run. It can be easily accessed if they choose to release it on all major OEMs.
Yeah,
because they have every vehicle has a card in it. Every single vehicle has to. Yeah, by
that's
law.
Not the problem. It's pulling all of that stuff together, which is the problem. That's where.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, it's not straightforward. Yeah.
Goodness, anyway. Almost agreement there. Well, let's move on, shall we, to happy news. Our wonderful partners, Europe Car Mobility Group UK, has reduced its average company car CO2 emissions from 129 grams per kilometre to just 29 grams per kilometre in the last 3 years. It follows a carbon reduction programme with CBVC Vehicle Management, which saw nearly 80% of Europe Car Mobility Group UK company car drivers switch to battery electric vehicles. Following the success of the scheme, Europcar has renewed its partnership with the fleet supply management firm for another 3 years. Mark Newbury, love him, hug him, and squeeze him, commercial director and sustainability spokesman at Europcar, said, "We are working with a wide diversity of businesses that are getting to grips with reducing emissions on their own fleets. It's therefore essential that we can show we understand the barriers they may face when aiming to win the hearts and minds of their drivers." Now, we've worked closely with Europcar over the past year, and they are truly on a mission. Sarah, we had Mark at Carfest, and he was outstanding.
As was his family. It was so nice to see him being supported. That was the beauty of Carfest. You had all these people, and at first we sort of thought, well, they're not the audience that you have. Well, of course they are, because they're all people who are due to be drivers of some description. And Europcar at the Everything Electric show back in March had a campaign with Tom Middleditch heading it up called Hire, Don't Buy, as in just have the vehicle for the short periods of time that you need it for, and they can deliver in 4 hours. So this carbon reduction plan that they've obviously had to go through is rigorous, by the way. That's supply chain as well as their own customer base, plus their own employees and everything that they've had to account for. So it's just a really great example, yet again, of a company leading us in the right direction. And congratulations to them. Those numbers don't sound too different, but that's a huge reduction, and I'm very impressed. Congrats.
Yeah, it was really, really good to see. And I know, we know the team really, really well. Sarah Clark's on the call, Karen Moore's on the call, and they're just so committed to delivering it in tough commercial conditions. It's not easy to make this transition, but it is still right, Paul, isn't it? We've got to keep the pedal to the metal, so to speak.
Absolutely, and it's a great example, actually. I was thinking that, Europcar can do it across a diverse group of people, some of whom will be not able to charge at home, I'm sure. And with all of that in mind, it sort of reflects on, I'm going to say, how easy it is to transition to a car fleet, and, how it's time to focus on the van fleet. I'm going to go on there, but it does demonstrate that we have solved most of the problems for the car sector, and if 80% of any particular company car fleet can go to an electric vehicle, it does suggest that is a good metric that we should be looking to see across most company car fleets, and with salary sacrifice coming on as well, it's all good. Time to focus on the vans is my final thought on that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now then, let's move on. Sam, I was wondering, I know you love the shout outs at the news. I wonder,
make him do it.
Would you like to read them today?
Yes, he would.
No, because if you told me that in advance, I might have read some of them.
Sam, do you mean you haven't been in the comments reading and enjoying the comments of all of our listeners?
I would speak, but you keep talking over me again, Paul. But I'll have a crack at it, because there are some good ones in here. And in particular, I said hello this morning to Dev Chakravarti. I said, "Where's Dev?" And at the same minute, I said that on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, he said, "Good morning, he's here." So I think we are clearly linked somehow. So that's
just Sam. Just as a word to the wise, we start at the top and then work down. What? Because I've got to select all the people. Yeah, don't pick them random. Go in order.
I can't. Oh God, there's too many.
Whilst he's looking for that, Leon Paul, Gomez, have you done it?
Have been on here relentlessly, as is Scott Eady. So well done to him. Gary from EV Musings, an absolute regular on this show. I was sat next to him at Cenex earlier this week. So welcome to you. Who else? We got EV Bino. He's always on here. Also, what else have we got? Harpreet Singh, another regular in the mix. Holly Baldwin from Greenfleet, welcome. Nice to hear from you. You're always there as well, actually. Thank you. Rebecca Wilson, Sarah Sloman, there she is. Tony Clayton. I see how this is working now. You have to do it all in one breath, otherwise it takes forever. Jennifer Smith, Daryl Sharp, Peter Lever, Josh Ekins, Marvin Samuels is always there. Darren Aniver, saw him as well. Tom Middleditch, he's been mentioned. Sarah, you're on here constantly. Pam Hanlon, as always. Rachel Lewis, as always. Peter Lever. My God, it goes on forever. Russ Morgan, Gary Comerford. Hang on, you've already been mentioned. You're on two different...
I know, and I can't keep up. You skipped too many.
Danita Brewer, Karen Moole. Oh, and there's me. Esther Jones. It just goes on forever, John. I don't know why you've made me do this. Matthew Long, always good. I like Matthew because he always agrees with me. Ben McDonald, I like him too because he always agrees with me as well. Belinda
Matthew Ling, do you mean?
And it's Matthew Ling anyway, but nice try.
Sorry, Matthew. you.
Okay,
Sorry, Matthew.
thank you.
That'll do.
Sam.
That'll do. I
That's
can't
enough
do
pain for
anymore.
one day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
stop,
That's
please,
great.
before you butcher
Yeah.
anybody else's name.
The words excruciating leap to mind. Sam, stick to the numbers, my friend. Thank you kindly. I'd like to say hello to Jennifer Smith. She's absolutely wonderful from Schneider Electric.
I
And,
spotted
yeah,
her, but he missed her. Yeah.
well, you know, we like to keep our sponsors' names out there. So thank you, Jennifer. Bless you. And also an awful lot of comment around no EV Cafe mug. We need to have a quick think about how we might give access to mugs. So the webinar coming up on the, he's got the wrong month up. There's nothing worse than having the wrong one up. Let's go. September. We are looking at, is it the 18th? Yes.
Yes, it is. Cleaner Fleet or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, Cleaner Fleets on the 18th of September is going to be a mass clear out of EV mugs. We have a grand total of 6 left. Okay.
No way.
On that,
Okay.
six mugs. On the 6th, on the 18th, we are going to get rid of those 6 mugs, and we're going to use something called Kahoot, which is an audience participation tool where you will be able to live vote and live answer questions, and we are going to push you hard to win one of those 6 mugs. They're all going on that day. It's not the end of the mug; it's just we'll need to get further supply. So
Are we like manufacturers clearing out the old ones for a facelift? Is that what's happening? Yeah, clear
Pretty
out
much,
the old
yes.
stock for a new.
You got it, mate. So Kahoot is going to be an interactive quiz that you're going to be able to take part in. You'll scan a QR code, give your answers live. They'll flash up on the screen. You could be a superstar and win an EV Cafe mug. There, right. That was a decision made. Let's move on. Scottish Water has completed work on a 2.3 million solar power and battery energy storage scheme, which could save around 169 tonnes of carbon annually. The scheme at Howden Water Treatment Works near Selkirk, that's in Scotland, consists of 2,112 ground-mounted solar panels and 15 racks of batteries to store the power generated, which will meet over a third of the site's power usage and support Scottish Water's drive to reach net zero emissions by 2040. Sam, this net zero by 2040 thing, I mean, massive applause to Scottish Water for making that sort of commitment. The transition to net zero, in your experience from the partners you're working with on a day-to-day basis, is net zero still alive and well, or is it dead in the water?
It absolutely is alive and well, and this news article is testament to that, isn't it? And what I love about this, as always, as you've heard me work on, is it says Scottish Water has completed work. That's past tense, ladies and gentlemen. They have done something, not talked about it. They've done it. And because there's a target and a threshold and an agenda of zero emissions, net zero emissions by 2040. So we need more of the same, right? Then there are examples across the country now where things of this nature are being done, much like good old GridServe that had its own centre wheel solution 4 or 5 years ago and is going very, very well in Warrington. Has been running ever since. And we need more and more of these things, and they are popping up all over the place. So it's really, really good to see. Well done.
Superb. Paul, stand by, my friend. We got van news coming up now. And Amy Phillips, yes, pre-registered mugs. Absolutely.
Mugs.
No, wait, John, there's a great fact. I really hope you were going to say this.
Go
So
on.
those solar panels can power, and I just Googled it because I never get around to reading the news, can power 371,000 kettles per year. Think how many EV Cafe mugs we could fill with that boiled water from those solar panels.
We could certainly fill the 6 that we're going to be getting rid of on our webinar on the 19th of September at 12 noon. Cleaner Fleets, be there. Anyway, fleets could be left in an impossible situation if the government doesn't clarify its position on whether diesel van production will be banned by the end of the decade. The Labour election manifesto pledged to reinstate the ban for cars to 2030, something to which it has recommitted in recent days, but is yet to clarify whether the move will also apply to vans. Highlighting the issue, Peter Golding, Managing Director of Fleet Check, said for many fleets, 2030 is less than one typical van replacement cycle away, and the lack of certainty is leaving them in an almost impossible situation. The current phase-out date for petrol and diesel vans is set for 2035. Paul, what the French is going on?
Well, look, I mean, if it's in debate for cars, it should be a separate debate for vans. I might be controversial here, but I don't think it matters actually that much. We're talking 70% by 2030 under the regulations. If we think that by bringing it forward and allowing hybrid options, plug-in hybrid options, there is none. It just leaves the Ford Transit and some BDO, which I saw yesterday at Cenex, options that would be available. It's going to make it incredibly difficult for manufacturers, and it would mean they would be all electric. Now, some of the manufacturers already promised, like Stellantis, like Nissan, and by Nissan you would automatically assume Renault because they make the vehicles for them. So there's going to be a lot of anyway. And so does it make a huge amount of difference? We're going to have to come up with some solutions for some of the options past 2030, I would expect. It is going to be an interesting. I just don't think it makes enough difference to really get sweaty about it. I would absolutely say we must have a plan for vans, though, that is broader and wider, and whether it's 2030, 2032, 2035, that almost doesn't matter as long as we get a quality plan that is well thought through, that deals with the 4.25 tonne legislation, charging, and all of the different elements that we are desperate to get the government to focus on solely, and that's enough.
And you're working with Logistics UK, BVOLA, and others to bring that van plan to life, the one that's already
zero emission van plan, yes.
And to add to it, to continue to push hard for
Absolutely.
clarification in this area. Now, we talked about HVO, and EV Beano, Ron Godfrey, said hopeful van oratory. I think for you, Paul, bang on. Well done,
That's
matey.
Me. I love it.
Absolutely love that. Peter Lever. Does it not seem strange that Scottish Water are using solar and batteries when hydropower would seem better, as they are a water company? Massively irritates me that we're an island nation with shed loads of water in an awful lot of our country, especially in Scotland. Does seem odd. And I would push very much for hydropower. Shall we move on to the HVO story at last? We've done it to death.
We've got 3 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, I know. Dublin Express has become the first passenger transport operator in Ireland to transition its fleet of coaches from diesel to hydro-treated vegetable oil, or HVO. The initiative marks a significant step in decarbonising travel between its Dublin city centre routes and Dublin Airport, which will see the operator replace over 80,000 litres of diesel each month, the equivalent amount that would fully fuel around 1,600 cars. Derived from using used cooking oil, HVO reduces CO2 emissions by 90% compared to diesel coaches. One coach running on diesel produces the same emissions as 12 coaches operating on HVO. Sam, HVO, you're busy with ZHID and working on electrification of heavy goods vehicles. HVO, does it play a part in your world?
It plays a part in the wider world because on occasion we use HVO to fuel some generators when we're waiting for grid connections and to onboard certain hubs. My concern is that the penny dropped for me with HVO when Ollie Crawn spoke at the Decarbonisation Summit at Most Transport last year, where he said we're doing a lot of work on HVO, but it's going to run out. There is not going to be enough, and what is going to be there is going to be repurposed for things like aviation. So I'm all for this, but at the same time, what's the long-term strategy? Because we can't all be using HVO forever because there isn't sufficient of it. So I'm all for this, but at the same time, I'm a little bit worried that the obsolescence is already starting to kick in with people saying, well, that's only a short-term solution. Yeah. Paul, anything to add?
It's stepping stone, isn't it? And I think, it isn't zero emission, but it's a significant improvement and a drop in on today's technology. And I think that's what we're going to see, and that's why the 2030, the deadlines moving about, and for plug-ins and hybrids and different things that don't currently exist. There'll only be a limited number of things that are short term because the return on the investment is going to be very limited by time. And so but I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing to do it while we can, to drive the local CO2s, in particular particulates and things like that, down as soon as possible. In fact, instantly, if we choose to use it.
Absolutely right. And Sarah, just very briefly, it's important that we do what we can when we can and do the very best now.
Yeah, it comes down to transport planning as much as the available commercial vehicles for that route. So that's a little route, it's a perfect route. We know what we're doing on that route. Great. And that oil that they're using, as Sam says, is a waste product for now. But those processes that create that waste product aren't really going away anytime soon. They use it in animal feed manufacture. So many uses of that oil. But a 90% in net carbon reduction for switching from diesel to that. Just go for it. I don't know what the commercial model is on that, whether they would have been better off going electric in the long run. But as you say, Paul, perhaps it's just a stepping stone for the next 5 years to reduce their city's target. So protecting human health, using waste products, go for it.
Yeah.
I think Chris highlights, sorry, John, there's a comment from Chris Demetriou in Islington Council. And he comments that the cost of the fuel is quite high, and it is notably higher. And obviously there is a limited amount of it, and there is a question mark over the sustainability of it. And so you've got sustainability longer term. To Sam's point, the sort of core stuff will run out, but they can make it. But is that ethically and sustainably valued?
Yeah, I guess Sarah touched on it with the waste product from McDonald's using HVO for
that's not going anywhere soon.
So right. So thank you so much, all of you, today. Brilliant from our panelists and the guys in the EV Cafe crew, and the comments that have come in today have just been off the scale. Great. So thank you so much. Leon Gomez, I noticed your comment about hydro. I'd like to pick that up at some point because I know you're in hydro and it's an area that I'm passionate about, that we should be doing much, much more there. If you've got any clean transport PR or news stories that you'd like us to cover, please send them to us at hello@evcafe.org. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from them. This has been an EV Cafe production brought to you this week in partnership with the AA, always ahead. Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just fun! The EV Cafe is truly blessed to be partnered with the AA, Webfleet, Europe Car Paythrough, Iveco, Zaptec, Drax, Spiri, Stuart Signs, Hydrock, Allstar, Schneider Electric, and Dynamon. We're the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to zero-emission transport. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, wherever it takes you. It's taking me back to a sunbed. I will be using sun cream factor 50. Until next Friday. Bye!
Bye-bye!
Bye.